Welcome to Becoming a Millionaire in 5 Years.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to crack open a really interesting one, the psychology of money. We're diving into the surprisingly human side of personal finance.
Yeah.
We often think of investing and managing money as like this really rational game.
Right.
All about the numbers, the formulas. But what if I told you that understanding your own psychology, like how you think about money, is even more important than being a math whiz?
Absolutely.
That's what we're going to be uncovering today. Over the next few minutes, we're going to dig into some fascinating insights from the psychology of money and see how you can use them to make smarter financial decisions, even if you don't have like a finance degree or you're not a Wall Street, hotshot.
Yeah. And what's so interesting about this book is that it really challenges this idea that you have to be like super smart to be good with money.
Right.
It really highlights this like often overlooked role of our own behavior.
Yes.
Our psychology when it comes to money.
Okay, so get this. One of the excerpts from the book talks about this tech millionaire, right? And this guy, for fun, would throw gold coins into the ocean.
Wow.
The same guy thought that $5,000 on a broken lamp was totally reasonable.
Oh my God.
It's kind of unbelievable, right? But it illustrates the book's point perfectly, which is that your relationship with money isn't always rational.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a guy who clearly had success in, the tech world, but he was making these decisions that just made absolutely no sense. And it wasn't because he wasn't smart. It's because he was letting his emotions and biases get in the way.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, how often are we all doing that?
Yeah.
Maybe just on a smaller scale without even realizing it.
All the time, right? We all have our own, I guess you could call them financial blind spots.
Totally.
These are the areas where our emotions tend to kind of override logic and reason. And the first step is just being aware that we all have them.
Right. Absolutely. So if this tech millionaire is like the cautionary tale, right, what does a more positive example look like? Well, the book contrasts this millionaire with Ronald Reed, a name you might not know, but a story you won't soon forget.
Right. Ronald Reed was a janitor.
Okay.
And he amassed an $8 million fortune through really simple, patient investing.
Wow, a janitor.
A janitor.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he lived modestly, saved diligently, and he just let that, the magic of compounding work its magic over decades.
It's amazing. And it really highlights that investing is something that with the right temperament, with the right habits, anyone can kind of,
And that's what's so great about it. It's not like other fields where you need years of, specialized training like being a doctor or an engineer. Investing is much more about consistency, discipline, keeping your emotions in check.
So, for those of us who don't necessarily feel like we were born, like investing geniuses, it is a skill you can develop over time.
100%. It's not about some kind of inherent talent. It's about cultivating that right mindset.
Yeah.
And it starts with understanding, like we said, that psychology.
Totally.
Like what is driving those decisions that we're making.
And that's where this whole idea of the psychology of money, that's where it comes in, right?
Yeah.
It's it wants us to shift our thinking away from money being this hard science. And instead, it's more like psychology, where it's all about your emotions, your biases,
right,
and how your past experiences can really affect your decisions today.
Yeah, think about how far healthcare has come.
Oh,
over the last century, we've mapped the human genome. We've, gotten rid of diseases. The medical technology that we have now is unbelievable.
It's incredible, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to our finances, have we really come that far in understanding the psychology?
It's a great question.
Behind our choices?
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, I think the answer is no, not really.
Well,
and I think one of the reasons for that is that, this whole idea of personal finance, as we know it today.
Okay.
Retirement planning, 401ks, managing debt.
Right.
This is all relatively new.
So you're saying these systems haven't been around for centuries and centuries.
Exactly.
So we're all kind of figuring it out as we go.
Yeah, we're still in the early stages of trying to understand okay, what is the psychology behind all of this?
So then where do those influences come from? What shapes our financial psychology? If we're all, kind of products of our experiences.
Right. Well, the psychology of money, it dives into how, even just your past, events from your past can really affect your money decisions today.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. And, they give the example of John F. Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
So his family was really wealthy.
Right.
And because of that, he never really experienced, like, the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't experience it firsthand. It wasn't until he was, at Harvard reading about it in textbooks
Oh, wow.
that it really hit him.
Wow, that's so interesting, like, how even just, like, not experiencing something can still really shape how you view it.
Absolutely. I mean, and that likely shaped how he, approached the economy.
Oh, for sure.
His policies, like, later on. It's fascinating how, like, these formative experiences, even the ones where we don't experience something,
Right.
can still have this, like, really big impact on how we think about money.
Wow. Is there like research on this? Have they like actually studied this?
Yeah, so these economists, Ulrich Malmendier and Stefan Nagel,
Okay.
they actually studied this, like, extensively.
And what did they find?
And they found that, like, people's investment choices are more closely tied to, like, what they experienced
Right.
growing up.
Right.
Like, if they grew up during a time of, like, high inflation, or if they, experienced, like, a really good stock market,
Okay.
that had more of an impact than, like, objective factors.
So it's like we developed this like almost like financial intuition
Right.
based on like the economy that we grew up in.
Totally. Like, it's like an imprint
Wow.
on our financial psychology.
It makes you think about how that plays out in real life then.
Yeah.
Like, how does that actually, like,
Well, so, like, imagine someone who, like, they came of age during, like, the high inflation of, like, the 1970s.
Okay.
Yeah. They might be really, really wary of holding on to cash.
Oh, that makes sense.
They're always going to be looking for ways to, like, protect their money.
Because they've seen how quickly it can, like, disappear.
Exactly.
Right.
And then you contrast that with, like, someone who, came of age during, like, the stock market boom of the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be more likely to, like, ride out those,
Yeah.
it's ups and downs.
Yeah.
They've seen that the market, like, tends to bounce back.
Right. Like their experience is like, yeah, it'll go back up.
Exactly.
So interesting how these like almost like, these big forces, these big like
Macro trends.
yeah, they can really have like such a personal impact
Right. They can really shape
on how we manage our money.
how we think about risk,
Totally. It's almost like financial deja vu.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like our past experiences can make us either like, overly optimistic or like,
Yeah.
irrationally fearful about money.
Yeah. Even if it's not justified, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Even if the current situation, like, doesn't warrant that.
It's just your mind going back to that place.
Exactly.
That's so wild.
And what's even more interesting is that it's not just these big, like, macro events that shape how we think about money.
Okay, so it's even deeper than that.
It goes even deeper. Like, even if you look at,
Okay.
people in, like, the same generation, the same socioeconomic class, things like local unemployment rates.
Okay.
Like, if a certain area was hit really hard
Oh yeah.
by, something,
Okay.
or, even just, like, how your parents, like, dealt with money.
Interesting.
Like, all of these things can have a huge impact on how you view and manage your own money.
So, while we might have these like,
Yeah.
shared experiences,
Yeah.
like a recession or,
Right.
like a period of high inflation,
Mhm.
like we also have these like very personal,
Or personal
individual histories with money.
Exactly.
Okay. So we've talked about how our like own histories
Mm-hmm.
can sometimes lead us to make like, not the most rational financial decisions.
Right.
But what about when we see other people making those decisions?
Yeah.
Like, what about those times where you're just, what are you doing?
Right. Wait, what is going
Like
on?
shaking your head. Like, how could you do that with your money?
Exactly.
The psychology of money actually has a really interesting take on this.
Okay.
And it really comes down to empathy.
Okay.
So one of the examples that they give is, low-income families
Mm-hmm.
spending like, a bigger chunk of their income on lottery tickets,
Right.
which, when you look at it, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
On the surface.
Right. Because, statistically,
The odds are
the odds are so slim.
astronomically small.
Yeah. But they encourage us to like, dig a little deeper instead of just saying, like, oh, that's foolish. That's not
Yeah.
smart. It's like, okay, well, let's try to understand why,
Yeah.
like the emotional context
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
behind that decision.
put yourself in their shoes, right?
Yeah.
Imagine living in a world where like financial security feels completely out of reach.
Yeah.
The idea of like owning a home, sending your kids to college, retiring comfortably, like it feels impossible.
Yeah.
And so in that world, a lottery ticket,
Right.
however small the chances of winning are,
Yeah.
it represents like this
It's something.
glimmer of hope.
It's that, yeah, exactly. It's like that glimmer of hope, even though statistically it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
But it's something.
And I think, it's just this good reminder that like we all make financial decisions based on our own circumstances.
Yeah.
Our own experiences and like even our emotional needs,
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe instead of, judging someone for their, financial choices, maybe like the first step is like, okay, well, what's their story?
Exactly.
Like what experiences have they had that have led them to this point?
What's their relationship with money?
Yeah, exactly.
Like where are they coming from?
And I think when we approach financial decisions, like from that place of empathy and understanding, like we're more likely to make choices that are smart, but also like, kind.
Absolutely.
So, okay, we're coming to the end here. Like, how do we use all of this?
Right.
Like, how do we actually okay, so we recognize that our psychology affects our money.
Yeah.
But how do we actually break free?
Yeah. How do we
from these patterns?
Right.
How do we stop those like irrational impulses?
It's a great question. And it's something that like the book, it really encourages you to like think about.
Yeah.
Like it's not, it's not going to give you all the answers, but it really wants you to like think about it for yourself.
Right.
And I think it starts with awareness, right? Like being aware of like, okay, I have these experiences, they've shaped who I am.
Right.
But like, they don't have to dictate my future.
Yeah. It's about questioning those assumptions.
Yes.
It's so easy to just take those assumptions for granted.
Right.
But it's like, okay, like is this fear that I have about like, investing in the stock market, like, is that real?
Right. Is there something behind it?
Or is it just like this thing that's like,
Is it a story I'm telling myself?
Yeah, from years ago.
Exactly.
That's so powerful.
And it's about asking those tough questions. Like, okay, like, am I making this decision out of fear?
Oh, that's good.
Am I letting like past regrets like cloud my judgment right now?
And once we see it, then we can start to actually like,
Right, then we can challenge it. And it doesn't mean that we have to become these like robots,
right,
that make these like perfectly rational decisions all the time. We're human. We're going to have emotions. But it's about like being able to separate like, okay, what's an impulse?
Right.
And what's like sound financial reasoning.
It's about finding that balance.
Right, exactly.
Like we can't just ignore the emotional side.
We can't pretend it's not there.
But we can't let it control us.
Exactly.
Wow, this has been great.
It's been fun. Yeah.
It's really eye-opening how much like our own like, histories and just like
our psychology
just plays into our like money.
It's so personal, right?
Yeah. It's so personal. And to everyone listening, as you navigate like your own financial journey, just remember that like
you're not alone.
You're not alone in this.
Like we're all figuring it out as we go.
It's okay to be like, confused sometimes and emotional and, all those things.
It's part of it.
It's part of it. And the more we understand, like our own psychology, the more like power we have, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
To actually like make the choices that we want.
You got this.
You got this. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Yes.
Until next time, keep those mental gears turning.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you back here soon for another fascinating exploration.
Thanks for tuning in to Becoming a Millionaire in 5 Years. Remember, every small step you take today brings you closer to your millionaire goals. If you found value in today's video, please give us a thumbs up and share it with someone who's also ready to change their financial future. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Together, let's turn those dreams into reality. See you next time.